Now we're going to move on to unwrapping, where we'll give our character a UV map which will allow it to be textured. Once the topology of your character is complete, it should look something like this. Please note, due to time constraints, this was done using ZeroMesher, so do not use it as a reference. Okay, on your retopologized model, in the modifier panel, hit Unwrap UVW. If you open the UV editor and don't see anything appear, go back to the previous editable poly modifier and deselect any selection that's active. Now, when you go back to the Unwrap UVW modifier, you'll see some form of unwrap in the editor. This will not be used though. The first tool I use to unwrap is the Projection Plane Best Align, as it lets you unwrap a flat surface easily. This is done as follows. Firstly, select the polygons you want to unwrap. Once these are selected, head to Projection, Plane, and now you have Align options. You can align these to the X, Y, or Z axis. Alternatively, you can select Best Align, which would find the best axis for you. There is also the View Align function, which will let you unwrap based on the view in which you are looking. Aside from this, all of my other more complicated and organic unwraps come from the Pill tab. This tool requires you to place seams, and then you can automatically select the polygons within those seams and pill those shapes in a very organic manner. Make sure you have the seams in the least obvious locations to not be visible when textured. So if you have edge selection active, just double click on any loop you have placed. You can then select Convert Edge Selection to Seams, and now that loop is now a seam, which is shown as a blue edge. You can also select seams by using the point-to-point seams tool, which will let you select two edges and it will create a seam along all of the edges in between the 2 points you selected. Now, you can select the polygon inside your seam and hit the Expand Polygon Selection to Seams button. You'll now have a selection of your shape. Now simply select the Quick Pill button and your shape appears in the UV editor and is flattened into a usable UV. Occasionally, the shape you produce might not be as clean and you may want to tweak it. Here are some of the tools I use. First tool is Straighten Selection, which can convert your UV into rectangles. This may not be useful for every UV though. The next tool is in the Reshape Elements tab. Select Relax Custom, relax by polygon angles, the values you can tweak to see what works for you, then select Start Relax, and then hit Apply. Now the polygons are slightly more even in shape, which makes the texturing process nicer since each polygon essentially would have equal resolution. You can also use the UV Paint Movement tool under the Brush tab to move vertices easily. And then there is the Relax by Polygon Angles brush, which is useful if you have some overlapping in your unwraps as it can detangle certain cases. Now that your first UV unwrap is done, I'd recommend dragging it off of the grid. Keep everything outside the grid until everything is finalized. So here I'm just going through where to place seams on my character and adding them in. If you're peeling multiple of the same shapes, like fingers for example, I'd recommend doing them all at the same time and have them all selected when you scale or manipulate them in order to keep them the same size. This avoids having awkward texturing where one finger is higher resolution than the rest. If you run into an issue where you peel but it comes out split or in multiple pieces, you may have a seam already running through your shape. You can see these by selecting Map Seams. To fix this, planar project the shape you want, then quick peel. The planar projection will remove the seam within your allocated area. Once you have the unwraps all completed, you just need to place them in the UV area in an organized manner to give the more important areas higher resolution. For this section of unwrapping, everything can be done in the Arrange Elements tab. The hidden areas or areas you don't see too often, give them less detail by giving them less space in the grid. Keep the separate parts of bigger shapes the same size, unless you want them to be intentionally lesser detailed, for example if you plan for them to have plain textures. I manually place my objects outside of the area and arrange their sizes accordingly. For example, to get all of these pieces of the shorts the same size, I highlight all of them and hit quick peel at the same time. This area of the shorts is a different size because there's an issue with the topology. As we can see here, there are polygons inside of the mesh. Again, yours wouldn't look like this. Mine does because I use the remesher. Also, as I've shown you before, you would have removed all of these polygons. So here I'm just working through all of my separate objects. I'm quick peeling similar objects at the same time to get the scale the same. The rotation of your elements doesn't really matter because we're painting using PBR software. This means that we're painting on the actual mesh itself and the texture map will be created in real time. So once you've rescaled everything and you're happy, just go into the Arrange Elements tab, deselect Rescale and hit Pack Custom. Once you have all your unwraps placed in the UV map, ensure your character is smoothed. This is done by selecting the polygons on your character and assigning a smoothing group, just like we did for the block out. So this is what my final UV map looks like when it's all organised. Try to keep everything as close as possible in order to not waste any UV space. Now we'll simply need to export the high and low poly character as .fbx files, preferably with names ending in _low and _high. Now just a side note, if for some reason your high poly and low poly are not in the exact same space in 3ds Max, you need to line them up before you export. Now with exporting your high poly, if they're in a group, just simply select the group and hit export selected and every element will come with it.